Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II, here with Cody Almasy. Cody, how are we doing today, man?
Doing great, brother. Doing great. Happy to be here. Blessed to be here, as always. Ready to recap some week 5, look ahead to some week 6, and give it out a couple shots of gin.
Yeah, I'm going to give out some shots today, some shots of praise and some shots of sorrow. And some are going to look a little bit similar to a previous one. So not going to give too much away. Really excited for tonight's show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and tuning in tonight on a Thursday, the 6th of October, 2022. Got a great show in store for you, like I just said. Let's start off with the shot of sorrow. Let's talk about the Sparties. Obviously, 3 losses consecutively. Is Tuck coming or no? And I've been asking myself that same question for quite some time now, and I can't seem to answer that question. Maybe you can help me answer that question, Cody. What do you got for me? What's going on with these Spartans?
Man, I'm not sure what's going on. I know there's some big holes going on in secondary. Over the last 3 games, they're allowing 500 yards a game, 33.3 points, 100 points total over the last 3 games, and they got Ohio State coming to town this week. So we got to give the Spartans a double shot, of gin this week. And yeah, sometimes you don't always take shots when you're victorious. You gotta forget the losses, forget these last 3 weeks, and maybe forget this season and try to resurrect the ship next year, because it's not looking good for the Mel Tucker campaign this year after doing so good in the first season and getting that big paycheck. So just not too much else to say about that. I hope we are talking about the Sparties again soon. We can't get out of a triple shot. That's alcohol abuse, starting to put some people in danger there. So hopefully
Yes,
they
it
shock
is.
the world one of these weeks, and we're talking about them for good reasons.
Well, you're talking about teams that are, you're talking about the Spartans. They're a win program. They're a win now program, to quote Chuck again. They're a win now program. And that's why we're giving them a double shot, because they need a double shot. They need that accountability shot to be, brought into the forefront with their entire team, their offense, their defense. Everything's in shambles. There's coaching staff issues. There's a lot going on in East Lansing right now, and it's something that was somewhat unforeseen given the first few games. But you got a schedule early on where you don't really see a lot of competition. Then you get thrown to the wolves with Washington, Michael Penix Jr., and this Washington Huskies team. I mean, we're going to talk about them here in a second too. They were surprised, but you play some teams where you don't really understand their defenses. Maybe you don't pay attention in film enough, and you're surprised. You get humbled. And that's what happened to the Spartans. I don't think they've ever really, resurfaced from that point. Maybe they still will. But at this point in the season, they're not fighting for a championship. They're not fighting for any major berth or anything like that in the CFP, the top 10. They're not even ranked, haven't been ranked for a couple weeks now. So they're just playing for pride at this point. They're playing for pride. They're playing to save face. And that's all they really have to do from here on out. They have to build with what they have and salvage their season as much as possible. They still have a chance at a winning season. We know that. Mel Tucker still has a chance to resurrect this team, and he can't do it on his own. It's going to have to, require multiple individuals to get this done. So we're counting on that to happen. But the shot of sorrow this week goes to the Michigan State Spartans yet again, and that pains me to say, especially with Ohio State coming up, Wisconsin the following week. And then we all know we got the boys in blue coming up towards the end of October. So there's a lot of big games coming up, and let's just say their easiest part of their schedule has came and went. Their hardest games are yet to come. So they have nothing but a difficult future going forward. So it's not looking good for the Spartans. They're going to have to pick themselves up from the dust as soon as possible. And I'm not really too confident if they can do it or not. So we're hoping for the best. I'm pulling for the boys in green and white. Always will. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Good deal. Let's move on. Let's talk about Washington and the Huskies. Let's talk about them versus the UCLA Bruins. Fell short by 8. They gave it a hell of a run. It was a great fight. Too little, too late. DTR, you got to give him the shot of praise for the week. Give him the shot of praise. Pour it up, drink it up, make sure it's cold, and give this guy a drink himself, because he deserves it. He showed out, and he really, he won against the Huskies at home in front of his home crowd. Maybe not the biggest crowd in the world, but it was a win with style. What do you have to say about this one, Coach?
Yeah, I think that crowd capacity really speaks to what a surprise this was. Only at 47% of what that stadium can hold. So not even the UCLA fans. I mean, you got a lot of sports going on out there, but definitely all the hype is for USC right now. But after this game, I think the eyes are shifting a little bit. And yeah, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 cheers for DTR and his shot of gin, because that's how many times he found the end zone. And man, I've watched DTR multiple times over his career, and he always has had that capability to make plays and really wow you, but never has he consistently strung it together throughout a whole game and really look in such command as he did the other night against the Washington Huskies. And he was doing it with Michael Penix Jr. on the other side, the guy who's leading the nation in passing yards still after that game, threw for another 400 yards, I believe, almost 400, 300 and some change. But so just to watch him play a clean game, he didn't outpass him, as I think you have here in the notes, but he really looked like he was the man in charge. He did not turn the ball over. Michael Penix Jr. did twice, and that offense just really was running smoothly the entire game. And yeah, DTR, Jake Bobo, and Zach Charbonnet, man, those 3 dudes really team on the back. And it was fun to see on a Friday night.
Yeah, it was really fun to see. I was actually watching that game with Stainer, and let's just say we both had Washington. We were pulling for Washington the entire time, and DTR just ran all over him. We were kind of surprised. I was telling him, I'm like, Smitty, you got to watch out for this UCLA team, man. They're no joke. Yes, they can come out and surprise you. They're coming out, getting their first 5-0 start since 2013. Chip Kelly has a chip on his shoulder, with this one. And just they were playing with a purpose. They were playing like they meant to be there. they were meant to be there. And he's like, John, it's still early, man. You got to have faith in the entire game. You got to watch the entire game in its entirety. And I'm like, Smitty, you can't discount what's happening right in front of you right here, right now. I don't care if it's the first quarter. I don't care if it's the second quarter. We're seeing a lot of things happen here that we did not expect to see against this Washington Huskies team. We've seen this team in Washington do some serious damage to good teams already this season. So, without that being said, it was just it was a performance that was, it was worth watching. It was worth watching in its entirety. And I got to take my hat off to Washington and the Huskies for fighting back and scoring 16 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to fight back and get themselves down 8 with a chance to tie the game, a serious chance to tie the game in a huge fight from Michael Penix Jr. But he made way too many errors, 2 interceptions, just not good enough. Can't do it. The interceptions he had too were very inexcusable. Should never have happened. Should never have taken place the way they did. But I think it's a mixture of UCLA winning that game and Washington losing that game that really brought about that result. So it's that's just how it played out, really. Got to give DTR the shot of praise this week, though. 315 passing yards, 53 rushing yards, scoring a touchdown with style points too. That was a beautiful thing, and it was it was a sight to be seen. I remember I still have it burned into my memory where Michael Penix Jr. he did a little juke. I thought I was watching NFL Street live. And he did that little juke, kind of walked into the end zone. I think they were on like the 5 or 6 yard line, waltzed right in, untouched, and it was a sight to be seen. So we got a comment here from Reversal Gaming. This is actually Stainer. He says, "Who is Stainer? Sounds like a dumb name. Washington's defense was looking silly Friday night. Yes, they were. They were looking like they needed some answers. They needed some questions answered, and they were speaking and preaching to the choir that night. It was not a good performance, especially early on. They were fighting from behind, kind of like the Detroit Lions usually do, especially back in the Stafford era. They're just fighting from behind, and it's too little too late. That's just the story of their entire career. So we saw a lot of that too. And it was just unfortunate for the Huskies. I was pulling for them. I wanted them to do well and win. And it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, I had the Huskies as well, so
I'm sure a lot of people had the Huskies. I'm sure the vast majority of bettors out there that were, twiddling their thumbs on their sports books, they had the Huskies. No one was pulling for the Bruins, even if they were both going in that game 4-0. It was you're pulling for the Huskies. So certain things happen. You got to be prepared for them, especially as a bettor if you're going to be wagering your hard-earned money on your smartphone, or if you have the blessing of being in an actual physical sports book. You expect certain teams to play well, and you count on these teams to come out and take the field and win. That's the end of the story. That's it, cut and dry. So didn't see that, it's unfortunate. Let's move on though. Let's talk about the Michigan Wolverines against the Iowa Hawkeyes. They broke the streak, ladies and gentlemen. They broke the streak that Iowa had against ranked opponents at home. What do you have to say about this game, Cody? Let me just give this one to you. Let me hand it off to you right now.
Yeah, I was very, very pleased to see my boys, the Maize and Blue, take care of business in Kinnick Stadium for the first time since 2005. That statistic was really stuck in my brain, leading up to the game and worried me a lot. So to see them come in there and handle the Hawkeyes that way, score early on, and with these, really gave them a cushion. And they covered the spread, which a lot of us thought was too high. A lot of analysts out there, me, myself, 10.5, 11 points is where it was at right when it closed. And I don't know. I thought it was going to be a 3 or 7 point game in Iowa City. We're really going to have to fight it out, but they really just had to sustain a late comeback effort and had to lean on Blake Corum again in this one. 29 times the guy ran the ball. I thought he was going to maybe cut that number a little bit. Donovan Edwards came back, the backup running back, and he caught a pass, but did not take away too many carries from Blake. And Blake is leading the nation in scoring again, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Everybody's got 10 touchdowns, and he's 4th in yardage. So I think that the Wolverines are going to keep leaning on the run game, and that just seems to be their MO. They did it with Cade McNamara last year, just hand the ball off and manage the game and make as little mistakes as possible in the defense, and is going to take care of the rest.
Yeah, they got a solid squad this year. Let me tell you, they have it figured out. Harbaugh's got his guys. He's got his ducks in a row. And it's a great performance. Looking at this Iowa game specifically, breaking the streak, things of that nature, still covering the spread, and doing it in style. Still kind of see some of that conservative action, but we didn't see them let up at the end like we have seen in games like the Maryland game. So I'm happy with what I saw with Michigan. We expect them to win. Did we expect them to cover the spread? Maybe not, not at face value, but they did cover the spread. So I can probably see that spread getting a little bit higher, getting a little bit more, a little bit more reckless from the bookies going forward. And we'll have to keep an eye on that. But this Michigan team, man, they got it figured out, and they got some really hard contests ahead of them. So they're not out of the woods yet, but they're looking good. Let me tell you,
going to Indiana this week should be routine business. Anything can happen. Don't want to count anybody out, but really looking 2 weeks down the road when Penn State Nittany Lions, now ranked 10th, they come to the Big House. So we'll be talking about that game a lot in 2 weeks.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will indeed. Let's move on. Let's talk about Kentucky and the Wildcats against Ole Miss. Ole Miss pulled it out. My Ole Miss team, they pulled it out. They pulled it out. They did what they had to do. They got the win. Did they cover? No, they didn't. And I think we kind of expected that. I think I might. I don't want to make any too broad projections here, but I believe I took Kentucky with the points, and I don't want to go on a limb saying that. But we knew that was going to be a tight game. It was going to be a tight contest, and I was happy with how that game played out, and I think it was a good fight from both teams. So it was just one of those things where you have two teams that are going to be battling the entire time, and it's going to be a dogfight, and you can't really expect an over to hit. So an under in that game, that pick, the over-under was 54. That hit pretty comfortably. That's a good under to take, I think, in that game. You got two dominant offenses. Defenses are solid, and you're going to see minimal points be scored. And that's exactly what we saw. So what do you got to say about this one?
Yeah, that's a great win for Lane Kiffin, the Land Shark fan base. Ole Miss, Rebels, baby. You were wearing your shirt last week. So I think you really helped them out there with your support. But if you're a Kentucky Wildcat fan or someone who had Kentucky Wildcat money line like myself, that's a really bad beat. I mean,
that is.
The Kentucky Wildcats had a couple chances in the red zone late, 2 fumbles by NFL prospect Will Levis, one at the 19-yard line, and one, I think, even closer than that, forced by Jaden Ivey, sorry, thinking ahead to the Pistons basketball.
Thinking harder.
Ivey,
basketball.
Strip sacks, Will Levis.
He's in the league now, though. He's in the league now.
Yeah, I got to get my Pistons
right?
jersey, man.
Yes, sir.
Yep. But Jared Ivey, defensive end for Ole Miss, he strip sacked to seal the game. And here's what happened to Kentucky. They had a blocked PAT, a missed 2-point conversion, a missed field goal, a safety given up on intentional grounding, and then the game-winning touchdown. They actually scored it. It was a pass from Will Levis to Dane Key, but there was an illegal motion on the play, which negated the touchdown, takes the points off the board, and then on the very next play, he gets strip sacked and the game's over. So they're so close to covering, so close to tying with all those missed chances. And we say it so many times, we'll beat it in the ground, but a game of inches and those mistakes, man, they add up and they can be hard to recover from.
Yeah, those penalties, they can compound and they can really pile up on top of each other, and they can really make it really difficult for whatever team is incurring those types of penalties and those amounts of penalties. Is going to make them really difficult for those types of teams to win from then, especially if it's a dogfight type of game where it could go either way. If you shoot yourself in the foot too many times, usually it's not going to work out in your favor. And you got to ask the question, did Ole Miss win that game or did Kentucky lose that game? Obviously, the scoreboard tells you that Ole Miss won that game, but hearing about those penalties and hearing about all those, unforced errors, it kind of sounds like Kentucky lost that game. So no matter how you slice it, I think that is probably one of the worst beats of the week. Kentucky losing that game by a field goal after missing a field goal, failing to make the 2-point conversion, getting a safety, in the intentional grounding in the end zone. That call, that's where it really is the icing on the cake. That's where the insults are given to injury. And it's just an unfortunate sequence of events for Kentucky and the Wildcats. So just a bad beat all around. Moving on, though, let's talk about Oklahoma State against Baylor, the Big 12 championship rematch. Tell me about this game, Cody. This is a great game. I think a lot of people were pulling for Oklahoma State to get that win, that revenge win. They wanted it really bad. They obviously wanted it more than Baylor did. They beat them at their house. Tell me about this game.
Yeah, man, I think this is one that we sniffed this one out a little bit. Oklahoma State just kind of has a different swagger this year, and Baylor does not. Baylor scores the first 3 points of the game, but then Oklahoma State kind of just runs away with it, 20 unanswered, and got all the momentum coming out of halftime, and they take one to the crib, a 98-yard touchdown return, and Jaden Nixon, man, the dude has some wheels. That's all I'm going to say. He stumbled on his way through the pile, and he still catches himself, and just nobody could have caught him in their dreams, man. He's just an electrifying weapon to have on your special teams or your offense. And Baylor, they made a late comeback effort as well. Tyler Shapin had a couple nice passes to try to bring it within close, but when you play a clean game and give yourself like a 20 unanswered scoring run to pad your lead, probably putting yourself in a good position and to withstand those comeback runs.
Definitely. I think we got to give some good words to Spencer Sanders, the quarterback of Oklahoma State. Threw 7 picks in his 2 games against Baylor last year. Played him twice last year, once in the regular season and once in the Big 12 championship. He threw 4 in the Big 12 title game, but this time it was a different story. This game he went 20 for 29, passing for 181 yards with a touchdown and an interception, and he also rushed 14 times for 75 yards with several scrambling runs and a touchdown scamper. So I was impressed with Spencer Sanders, his ability to right his wrongs, his ability to conduct the offense and really get the Oklahoma State Cowboys on his back and say, hey, we're going to win this game no matter what. I don't care if we're playing away. We're going to get this revenge win. We're going to do it for our fans. We're going to do it for our alumni, and we're going to play a great game of football here. And that's exactly what they did. And I was very happy to see that. That was a redemption moment, not only for Spencer Sanders, but the entire Oklahoma State program and the fan base. So I was really happy to see that. I think that was a big component of why they won that game. Spencer Sanders really kind of surrounded his team around him, and he made that happen.
That stat line you mentioned kind of speaks to his growth process, what Mike Gundy's been able to do with him. And, he doesn't feel like he has to throw for 300 yards to win the game. He can hold on to the ball, run it when he needs to, and he's not forcing those turnovers like he was last year. And his team is the benefactor.
Exactly. Just playing smarter football. That's what it comes down to, playing smarter football, knowing what you can do, playing to your strengths, and not trying to shoot for the fences as far as stats and stat lines. So hats off to Oklahoma State and the Cowboys getting it done against the Baylor Bears at their place. Let's move on. Let's talk about NC State and Clemson. I tried to sniff this one. I wanted to pick NC State with the points, plus 6.5. It looked really good. I was getting all hyped up about it. Clemson came out and they're still undefeated at home since November of 2016. So that stat line speaks for itself. You do the math on that. What's that? 6 years in the making and counting for the Clemson Tigers, winning at home, lossless at home. What do you have to speak to on this game? Just looking at it objectively and looking at the stat sheets. What do you got to say?
Man, I can't. Admittedly, I wanted the Wolfpack to eat up Clemson as well. I was feeling NC State wanted to come up in there and get their first win in South Carolina since Phillip Rivers was the quarterback, really summon his energy, get a bolt of magic, but it just was not the case. Dabo Swinney and the Tigers, they have something special going on at home. It starts when they come in the stadium. Me, you, Sam, we're talking about it right as the game was opening up, just watching in that pregame, them run down the hill. They get in a bus from the locker room and ride it over to the hill to get out and run, like the only football team in America that ride the stadium to their own home entrance, but the whole entire Memorial Stadium buys into it and goes crazy. And I get goosebumps being thousands of miles away here in Michigan for a team that I like to see lose. So that just kind of speaks to the culture that Dabo Swinney has instilled there. 37th win at home. That's a record-tying stat right there. And it's the first time since the 90s to 2002 when FSU did it. So just hats off to them. And they were in control the whole game. You know, NC State had some shining moments where they had glimpses of trying to make a move. But this is the best game I've seen out of Clemson since Trevor Lawrence left. It was complete on offense and defense. DJ Uyunglele looked great, man. He looked like the best version of himself that I've seen him put on the field. I don't know by himself.
Yeah, you know, you talk about DJ Youngale. He showed dominance through the air and on the ground, and that's something we haven't really seen yet from a quarterback since Trevor Lawrence has departed or had departed from the Clemson Tigers team. And to see that happen, that is, you know, Clemson too. We talk about all these teams. They're win now programs. They expect to win right now, but they also expect to win by significant margins. Too many times they've been squeaking away, winning games by single digits, and it's just not enough. Dabo Swinney has to have been instilling some of these values into these guys, and he had to have got through to DJ Youngale to be a win now quarterback, to be a dominantly winning quarterback, and play like it. Utilize your weapons. Utilize what we brought you onto this team to do. And it's impressive to see that, and it's also, I think, kind of fortunate for Clemson because they've got away. They squeaked away with a couple close games where they've won these games and maybe they should have lost them. They still retain that ranking. They still retain that lossless record. But I think this is something that it came just in time for this Clemson team to find this at this point in the season, being 5 games in, to find it right now, to get the job done, and to move forward to, you know, through the rest of your difficult schedule is very important to do, and it couldn't have came at a more opportune time, in my opinion. So it's good to see the Clemson Tigers win in this fashion, and hopefully they can continue going on with this.
Yeah, and you're saying it came at the right time. Completely correct, because I mean things can change and teams can move up in the rankings a little bit, but the only ranked team that they have left on the schedule is number 22 Syracuse. So looks like they got a pretty clear path to the ACC championship game, which they missed out on last year. So
that's right. No game is an easy game, especially for Clemson. You know, kind of got cut a little short last year, and they're obviously playing how they're playing right now. They're looking to make a run into the CFP. So we're looking forward to that too, and we're going to follow them as a lot more. And I'm going to be following DJ Youngale because we've been following him since the beginning, since that first game with them against Georgia. And
yeah, he is kind of tied right in with us. The GCP.
He did.
Our first game we covered was his first game starting against Clemson Tiger. Yep.
The inception. Jesus, that's really dating me right there. That's aging me as we speak. But hey, he's a young guy though. He's a young guy, so we're gonna follow him all the way into the NFL. I'm sure we'll be talking about him on the DCP at some point. So you know, I'm following this guy. We're going to watch him grow and develop as he, you know, grows older into his college career. And we're just going to see what he's capable of. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of that stuff. Let's move on. Let's talk about Georgia and Mizzou. Georgia squeaks away with a win against Mizzou. That wasn't looking too good for the Georgia Bulldogs for quite a while there. I thought Mizzou was going to win that game. I thought Mizzou was going to win that game late in that game. They pull off the win, winning 26-22. What do you have to say about this game? Where did Georgia fall short, and why did they win this game and maybe not lose this game?
You know, I think the only reason is they're Georgia, better coaches, more resources, more talent to just outlast Missouri, because Missouri did everything right, man. You hold Georgia, the number 1 team in the nation, to out of the end zone for the first 3 quarters. That's a recipe for success. But eventually the dam is going to break, you know. Those 2 running backs he was handed off to, Stetson Bennett, that is, they're going to deliver blows, and eventually the dam's going to break, and that's what ended up happening at the very end of the game. 13-point hole that the Bulldogs had to scrape out of, and it's a lot of field goal kicking going on for Georgia, and we all know that is not going to get you very far in the SEC championship or the CFP, especially SEC this year with how loaded it looks. Georgia cannot expect to play this way against more inept competition and survive and stay undefeated.
Exactly. You look at these top 5, these top 10 teams. You look at Georgia almost losing to Mizzou. You look at Clemson almost losing to Wake Forest. You look at Alabama almost losing to Texas. It just really exposes the kryptonite that all these teams have. And you can't really pinpoint it. You can't put your finger on it. But to look at these teams that are superstar teams, leading teams in the FBS, have been for decades, at least a decade, most of these teams that are in the top 5, top 10. You're looking at these teams, you're like, these teams like Wake Forest can't touch Clemson. Teams like Mizzou, they can't touch Georgia. Texas, yeah, they used to be good, but they can't touch Alabama. And you see these things happen. It's like it's exposing them. It's exposing what they're doing wrong, where they're falling short. And it just shows that it's possible to beat these teams. They're not inevitable teams. They're not teams that are unhuman, that are something greater than life. These teams are susceptible to losses just like every other team is. So, to see them pull this game off really just proves that fact. And we've seen it happen to every major team. And we know that every team that plays any of these top 5, top 10 teams, they're going to have their number. So they're going to have to watch out. They're going to play with the extra chip on their shoulder, play with an extra level of security, because if they don't, they could be caught slipping and they could catch an L where they didn't expect to. So it's just a wake-up call. Another time, this is another example right here with Georgia and Mizzou. It's a wake-up call. I can't put it any other way. They squeaked away with a win when they probably should have lost, and they lived to play another game, and they lived to still have a lossless record going forward into week 6. So they just got to be nothing but fortunate going forward for the rest of the season. That's all I'm concerned about, and that's all they should be thinking about. So
yeah, and they're fortunate enough not to match up with Alabama in the regular season. So
that's true.
If they would have taken that loss, it would have been a lot tougher to swallow, because they do have some good competition in Kentucky and Tennessee down the road. So definitely lucky to get out of there alive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's move on to the week 6 preview. Let's talk about Tennessee and LSU. Obviously, Brian Kelly facing off against the Volunteers at their place, at home for LSU. Tennessee -3, over under 65. I think that over under is a little bit high personally. First and foremost, the Volunteers are undefeated. LSU is 4-1. Only loss was to Florida State. I'm still concerned about that loss. I think they pulled it together a lot since then. But is this LSU team going to be able to get it figured out? Tennessee -3. Some people might think that's a small spread. What do you think about this game? Where do you think the outliers are? And how would you pick this game?
Yeah, this is, as far as picking, a tough one for me. The over is a little bit high. The team's points per games are both up there, over 35 points a game. Tennessee sitting up there at a whopping 40.5 points per game. So, man, these offenses can, especially Tennessee, Hendon Hooker, he can explode. But LSU has shown the ability on defense, has been their brighter side. They just held Auburn to that 4-point win last week and looked really good doing it. And yeah, they had that one loss on the schedule to FSU. That's a blocked field goal. That's crazy thinking about that week 1 and how far we come. But this is a small spread, like you said. I wonder, after that first loss, when LSU dropped to 0-1, how big this spread was projected to be. And just where it is at now speaks to what Brian Kelly has done in these last 4 weeks. But this is going to be a huge test for him here, and seeing what his team has when it comes to playing some teams that can score.
Yeah, they're gonna have to put their big boy boots on if they want to win against the Volunteers, because they're no joke. They're a no bullshit type of team, and they're a win now program, just as much as LSU is. But I think the mentality has been, has underwent a shift since the Brian Kelly regime has taken place, and I think that's kind of coming back to the win now mentality. Because let's look at Brian Kelly. Look at his track record. He's a win now coach. So thinking about that, kind of trying to merge the Notre Dame mindset into the LSU Tigers, mindset. There's some discrepancies there, but I think if you can bridge that gap and find that chemistry, LSU can still be a great team. So it's just gonna be a battle. It's gonna be a battle, and that spread of 3 points there favoring Tennessee is there to show for it. So it's gonna be a
right
battle.
off the bat, I'm leaning. I like the three. I every week I think so far I've said Hendon Hooker's name. I think the dude is a star, and I think that the quarterback department is where Tennessee has the for sure edge. Daniels for LSU, he took a shoulder injury or knee soreness. That's what it was, knee soreness in the game against Auburn, and only was able to throw for 85 yards before being sidelined. He's ready to go. He's been practicing all week. So I'm really going to be tuned into how Daniels is doing because I think that's going to have a huge role on how LSU competes in this game.
Yeah, it should have pretty big implications on how that game will play out, especially in LSU's favor. So I have to ride with the Volunteers here, the Vols. I'm riding with the Vols. Hendon Hooker. Give me the Vols -3 just because I like their chemistry. I like their soundness on offense, especially their defense is solid. Can't really match up with their offense as much, but I'm pulling for the Vols here. I'm pulling for the Vols in an away game, and it's gonna be a battle. I know it's gonna be a close game. It's gonna be within a touchdown. I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be within a touchdown. Give me that under. I think it's gonna be a battle, maybe a 25-28 type of game. And I'm looking forward to a battle. I think that 3 points might come into play, and I might push that bet if I take the -3. That's why I hate -3. I'm going to tell this to everybody right here, right now, and I'm going to get long-winded, but I'll keep it brief. Don't worry. -3 or +3 is the worst spread in the history of football. Okay, I don't care if we're talking about college football, talking about NFL. You can't have a 3-point spread anyway you cut it. You can't have it. 3.5 is good. 2.5 is good. That's fine. And the problem is, and the bookies are idiots for this, is, they're setting themselves up to push. If they set themselves up to push, what happens? They don't make money. So why would you do that? Why would you set yourself up for failure? You don't want bettors to push. You want bettors to either win or lose. Ideally, if you're a bookie, you want them to lose, but you want to have that kind of split and you want to have that discrepancy there so you can kind of come out with some overhead. But that's just my bone to pick. I don't like the plus or -3 spread. I think it's basically a wash, and it's the only spread worse than a pick 'em, in my opinion. So that's what I got. Let's move on. Then we got a couple more games here. TCU against Kansas and the Jayhawks. The Kansas Jayhawks, are they a football school? Let me ask you that first and foremost, Cody.
Hey, this year they are, man. Hey, it's they got some magic brewing down there, and just carries right on over from basketball season to football apparently now.
Yeah, and then from football into basketball. We'll be looking forward to that too. We'll see if they're really about it. TCU, they're going to have a true battle here with TCU and the Horned Frogs. How do you pick this game? TCU -6.5, over under 69 points. The golden number 69. How are we feeling about this spread? How are we feeling about this over under?
Man, I don't want to pick the over under just because I want it to somehow push. Just hit the golden number. That'd be amazing. We love that for the brand. 69. Nice. But yeah, props off to Kansas Jayhawks. First time in the top 25 in football since 2009. And TCU, we can't write them off. They're also having a good season. And I don't know that many people would have had these two teams being unbeaten when they matched up in October. But we are here for it. And I think there's going to be a lot of offense. And I hope the Jayhawks can continue their streak. But either way, I'm happy for whoever wins this game. Yeah, but the Kansas Jayhawks, they're more of a Cinderella story than TCU a little bit. Started the year plus 25,000 to win the Big 12. They have now moved up to only plus 1,000, which still,
Wow.
A reach, but comparably where they're at, that they have a puncher's chance, and we'd love to see them shock the world.
Yeah, we would. I think we would. Especially, you think of teams like Kansas and the Jayhawks, think of teams like the Duke Blue Devils. They're not football schools, okay? You don't think of them as football schools right off the rip. You think of them, okay, they're, Coach K, okay, they're basketball, okay, all right, yeah. Jayhawks, yeah, basketball, okay, yeah. You don't think about them in even the football teams. It probably wouldn't even be a crazy thought to think that they didn't even have football teams. this team is a Kansas Jayhawks team, 5-0, and they're going against a team like TCU, which has been known for quite a long time as a football school. We're going to see what they're made of this weekend. We're going to see what they can do, see what they can give to the TCU Horned Frogs offensively, see how they can prevent them from scoring with their defense. The spread of 7 points obviously favors TCU and is going to favor their longevity in the college football landscape and their ability to win games, their ability to find success in the college football landscape and in the entire FBS through the entirety of their schedules going back a decade. So we're going to be looking forward to this. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what the Kansas Jayhawks are made of. And we got Reversal in the chat again. Give me the Horned Frogs. Give me the Horned Frogs. Let me ask you this, Smitty. Do you got the Horned Frogs -7 or do you got a money line? And I don't want to hear money line, so only tell me if you got them -7. Okay.
And we got to give some props because I'm pretty sure since about week 1, he's been riding this train. I think he's TCU Frog got the juice or some comment along those lines very early on in the college football season. So he's been drinking that purple Kool-Aid. So we got to give him respect for sniffing that one out because now they're ranked 17th. Yeah.
Well, they haven't had the hottest seasons, looking back the last 5 years, but they were before that. They were a hell of a team.
Yeah,
but
they got
now
a new
they seem like they're coming back.
Sonny Dykes, he's got a new culture, new swag going on. So we're embracing the Sonny Dykes era.
He said -2.5, -5.5 money line, however you want to chop it. Listen, if you're taking alt spreads, I don't even want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it, buddy. That's all right.
7 to 7, 8, 9.
Okay, the only worse spread than a pick'em is a 7-point spread, and that's what we see here. The experts, the analysts of the betting sphere in the FBS, specifically in college football, are assuming that this is going to go to TCU -6.5 before kickoff. I misspoke. The actual spread is 7 points, favoring TCU and the Horned Frogs. So we'll see if that changes. Hopefully it does. Give the bettors some chance to win. I like TCU -6.5. But you never know with these Kansas Jayhawks. Are they a football school? We're going to find out this weekend. So that's all I'm going to say. TCU could cover 7, says Smitty in Reversal Gaming. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's move on. We got a couple games left. Actually, yeah, we got a couple games. Here we go. Utah and the Utes face off against the UCLA Bruins. This is my game of the week. This is the creme de la creme of games. And I'm expecting a hell of a fight in this game. 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox, 10/8 this Saturday. What do you got to say about this one, Cody? This is as good as it gets right here.
Yep. This could definitely produce a shot of gin recipient out of this game. DTR could go for a double shot, or we could maybe give one to Cam Rising. We were high on him last year in his play towards the end of the season with the Utah Utes. I think he even considered ordering a jersey at one point. So we're excited to see what Cam Rising can do. We hated seeing him take that early loss to the Gators in the swamp, but you just get that sometimes, Pac-12 teams aren't used to going into SEC territory, especially not when it's so damn humid in Gainesville and those nasty Gator fans are yelling at you. So, but since then, Utah's looking good, and they're only allowing 14.4 points a game. That's not what UCLA and DTR are accustomed to seeing. They usually have a little bit more Swiss cheese defense over there in the Pac-12. So we're going to see what happens when metal meets the road, and it's 3.5 points in Utah's favor. We got that half point that we like. And how you leaning in this game?
So this is a tough one, man. I've been thinking about this one all day long, and after the DTR performance from last week against Washington, the Huskies at home, half of their capacity. Smitty kept telling me half capacity. He's like, I'll be surprised if they have 40,000 people at this game. I mean, I know you hear the crowds roaring, but I even looked at the post-game scenes, the post-game footage, and the end zones are canvassed off. You can't sit in behind the goalposts. You just can't. So, Cam Rising in Utah and the Utes, they found success kind of similar to LSU. They had a bump in the road early against the Gators and Billy Napier. But, do I trust them? Do I think they can win? Do I believe they have that Utah Utes mentality? I got to take the Utes. Give me Utah -3.5. I think they're going to overcome DTR in that UCLA offense. The defense is going to hold them up, and I'm looking for Cam Rising to really persevere and pierce through that UCLA defense, and hopefully their defense can stop DTR as well. So I'm looking for that. Give me Utah minus 3.5. And I kind of like the over here, 64.5. It's kind of high, a little bit, leaning towards that upper end of the scale, but I like that over. Give me the over 64.5 and Utah minus 3.5. What do you got?
I love it. I love it. I think that Utah is going to be able to maybe force a mistake early by DTR and get in his head. I think that's the key to them winning the game. I think it's going to be about a 3-point game, though. So picking the spread here, tough. I do like the over, though, because we've seen Florida and Utah. They racked up about 52 points, and I feel like DTR is going to be able to get a little bit more loose than Anthony Richardson was with the Gators, and Cam Rising is just going to have to rise to meet that pace, and it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I like what you did there. That was good. All right, let's rapid fire these last two games, and then just because reversals in the chat, we gotta talk about this last game on here. So real quick, Florida State, NC State. Who do you got?
I like
State minus 3. NC State minus 3. Over under 50.5.
Man, I love the Wolfpack and the under here. I think they're going to bounce back after taking one on the chin from the Clemson Tigers and DJ Uyangale. And I just don't know who's throwing the ball, Jordan Travis or Rodemaker for Florida State, but they just took their first loss this season against Wake Forest, and I think that the Wolfpack is the team to rebound in this one. Give me the 3 points.
Yeah, usually I'm a big Seminole guy. At least this year I have. I sniffed that pick the first game of the season, Florida State against LSU by the blocked field goal. We picked it, and we rode with it. We bet it. We won some money on it. We felt real good about it. But now I'm kind of riding with the Wolfpack. I think the Wolfpack's going to come out with a vengeance here. Playing at home, NC State minus 3, that terrible spread, the forbidden spread. Give me NC State money line. I think it's going to come down to a few points, and it's going to be a dogfight. That's going to be a hell of a game too. ACC Network, 8 p.m. on Saturday. Looking forward to that one as well. Going to be watching that one closely. Next up, we got BYU and Notre Dame. Notre Dame is favored minus 3.5. I mean, Marcus Freeman, is he the real deal or not? Notre Dame's a win now program. Are they favored for a reason in this game? BYU still a good team. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, this one's kind of a question mark for me. I do like the under when both these teams have showed inconsistencies on their offense. And I mean, Notre Dame, they've scored a lot of points, but it was against teams they had to score a lot of points with, like the North Carolina Tar Heels, just to even remain competitive. You got to score with a team like that. And BYU is going to slow it down, run the ball, and a lot of RPOs with Jaren Hall. I think that the under is going to hit in this one. I'm going to stay away from picking a winner. I'm just going to go with the under.
Yeah, you said it. I'm with you on that one. Take the under 51. It's gonna be a battle, just like every other game that we talked about tonight. They're gonna be battles. Who's gonna come out? Who's gonna show up? It's the bottom line. Who's going to get the job done? Last but not least, let's finish up with this one. And we got one more after. Let me do this one real quick. Texas and Oklahoma, obviously huge rivalry. Texas minus 9.5. I think that's a very generous spread for the Oklahoma side. Over under 65.5. I mean, this bet just screams Oklahoma with the points. You almost feel tempted to take Oklahoma money line playing at home. But I think that might be a little bit too much of, being lured to the car and taking the candy from the stranger kind of mentality. So how are you feeling about this one?
I know they changed the name. They don't want to call it a shootout anymore, but this game is called a shootout for a reason. There's a lot of scoring. I'm going with the over. These defenses haven't looked great either all year, especially Oklahoma's. So, give me the over.
Yeah, let me do this too. Throw Oklahoma in there with the parlay plus 9.5. I like that spread. Even if they lose that game, I don't think it's by more than 10 points or more than 9.5. So I like that. And I think it's going to be a shootout as well. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I'll take the over, maybe even take an alt over under at 60 or 59.5 and feel real good about it. Okay, so here's the game. I know Smitty's going to chime in this one. Eastern Michigan against Western Michigan, in-state battle. Okay. in-state battle. Western Michigan -5. We're playing in the zoo, playing in K-Zoo here. Over under 56.5. What are we thinking here?
Hey, man, I'm going to take the usual context, don't bet with your heart out of this one because I'm fine with the Eagles. We're covering the 5 points. No one's looking at us. Our starting quarterback is actually coming back from injury. Taylor Powell's going to be back in action, and we're feeling good after winning our homecoming game, scoring 20 unanswered and sending the Minutemen packing. So I think we're gonna upset them in Kalamazoo Day, but it won't be easy.
Oh yeah, I am pulling for Eastern Michigan in this one. Especially their game against UMass. They played their hearts out. So I'm expecting them to play very well. Give me Eastern money line. I like that pick a lot. I stand behind it, and I'm going to be following that game. CBS Sports Network, 12 p.m. on the 8th this Saturday. So we'll leave it at that. That's a lot of games. We just went through a lot of games, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about games in week 5. We talked about games in week 6. We talked about different mentalities and different coaching structures, player structures, offenses, defenses, chemistry. We talked about it all tonight. We gave you the entire gambit. So I hope you enjoyed it. And that brings us to the end. Cody, you got any final statements before we sign off?
Yeah, everybody just be safe out there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. And just going to be here every week to keep giving you this content.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Gin Pros. Follow us on Instagram at Gin Promotions and at Gin Sports Network and at Gin College. Go to our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, for all of our content. Everything's on there, and our link tree as well is at the bottom of this podcast. That has all of our links, all of our content pages attached to it. Feel free to reach out, give us some suggestions, comments, concerns, backlash. Chew our asses out. Do whatever you got to do. Just let us know that you're there, and we'll be happy to hear from you. We'll be getting back to you as well. But thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II with Cody Almasy. Have a great week.